All right, so it looks like we're diving into budgeting today.
Yeah.
You sent over a ton of stuff,
Yeah,
articles,
a whole bunch of stuff.
a YouTube video, so clearly you're serious about getting a handle on this.
Definitely ready to tackle it head on.
But it can be a lot, right? There's so much info out there about budgeting.
Oh, yeah.
Different approaches, all
Mhm.
these different percentages and terms. It can feel overwhelming.
It's easy to get lost in the weeds for sure.
So that's what we're here for, to break it down, make it manageable, and give you some clear, actionable steps.
Exactly. No more info overload.
Just a clear path forward.
Straight to the point.
So let's just dive right in. What exactly is a budget?
Well, it's more than just, tracking your spending.
Right.
It's really a plan for your money, budgets. Everything you need to know. That article really nails it.
Mm-hmm.
You're making choices about where your money's going before you spend it, instead of looking back later and wondering where it all went.
Yeah, like a roadmap instead
Yeah.
of a rearview mirror.
Exactly.
And speaking of goals, this deep dive really highlights how important the budget is.
For sure.
Less stress, more control, actually achieving those things. You want budgets. Everything you need to know really lays it all out.
It's super empowering. You're not just at the mercy of your impulses or like those unexpected expenses.
Right.
You're making your money work for you instead.
I love that. Okay, so we're on board. A budget is key.
Yes.
Where do we even start?
Let's start with the foundation, income.
Okay.
Both how to start a budget and that YouTube video with Shay, they emphasize using your take-home pay.
Okay.
That's what you actually have after taxes, not just what you see on your paycheck.
Right, makes sense.
And Shay goes even further. She suggests using the minimum amount, you'll earn each month.
Oh, interesting. Why is that? To like build in a cushion?
Exactly. It's like a built-in safety net. You're less likely to overspend that way.
Smart.
Plus, you're always kind of exceeding your own expectations.
I like that. No one likes coming up short at the end of the month.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so income, locked in.
Suit. Now the less glamorous side, expenses.
Yes, but it's not as scary as it sounds.
I hope not.
Both budgets, everything you need to know. And the YouTube video, they offer some great tips for getting a handle on your expenses.
Okay.
It's all about breaking them down into categories.
Right.
And Shay keeps it really simple in her video. She starts with those essentials: your four walls,
The four walls.
rent or mortgage utilities, and food.
Makes sense. Got to keep a roof over your head, keep the lights on.
Exactly. Prioritizing those ensures your basic needs are always met. Then she says, list out all your other expenses by importance.
Oh, okay.
So is that gym membership more important than those streaming subscriptions?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Having it all laid out like that makes those choices so much easier.
Yeah, no more agonizing over what to cut.
Exactly. You can clearly see where to trim if you need to.
All right, so we've got income mapped out, expenses categorized. What's next?
Now it's time for a little financial math.
Oh, no.
But don't worry, it's simpler than you think.
Budgets. Everything you need to know lays out three key concepts: surplus, deficit, and a balanced budget.
Okay, break those down for me.
A surplus means you're bringing in more than you're spending.
Okay, so that's the dream scenario.
The dream. A deficit means you're spending more than you earn, which signals it's time to boost that income or cut back on spending.
And a balanced budget means everything's perfectly lined up.
Income equals expenses.
Got it. So these aren't scary terms. They're just tools to help us understand where we stand.
Exactly. They're just about helping you make informed decisions.
I like that. So we've laid the foundation. We've got our financial snapshot. But how do we actually put this budget into action?
That's where choosing a budgeting method comes in.
Okay.
And you've given us some great sources to explore those options.
Let's start with the one Shay uses in her video, zero-based budgeting.
Yes. It sounds intense, right?
A little bit.
It's all about giving every dollar a job. Every single dollar of your income is allocated to a specific expense category.
So no more mystery money at the end of the month.
Exactly. Budgets. Everything you need to know has a great breakdown of this, too.
I'll have to check that out. What other methods are there?
Well, there's the classic cash envelope system.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Budgets. Everything you need to know mentions it's making a comeback. You divide your cash into envelopes labeled for each spending category.
Right.
Once an envelope's empty, you're done spending in that category.
That's like a visual reminder.
Exactly. No more mindless swiping.
I like it. What about that percentage-based approach?
That's a popular one. How to budget money. A 5-step guide, NerdWallet, dives into the 50-30-20 rule.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
50% of your income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment.
So you're automatically prioritizing the important stuff and building in savings.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
But the article also says you can create your own percentages too, right?
No, absolutely. It's all about what works best for you and your goals.
Okay, so we've got options.
We do, but choosing the method is only half the battle.
Right.
The real challenge is sticking to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned take-home pay earlier, which makes perfect sense for most people.
Right.
But what about people with fluctuating incomes, like freelancers or people who work gigs?
That's a great question.
How do they accurately figure out their income for a budget?
For folks with inconsistent income, it's even more important to have a solid budget.
Right.
One approach is to calculate their average income over a few months, maybe even a year,
Mm.
and use that as their baseline.
So kind of smoothing out those peaks and valleys.
Exactly. And they might want to think about a bigger emergency fund to help with those ups and downs.
Okay, to cushion against those fluctuations.
Right. How to save money for your big financial goals suggests 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside.
It's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's talk about budgeting for those big
Wow.
goals. It's not all about paying bills, right?
Right, we're talking dream vacations, down payments, early retirement, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
And how to save money for your big financial goals really breaks it down.
Yes, it does.
Emergency funds first. How much should we aim for?
They recommend 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an account you can access easily.
Got it. So if you lose your job or have a surprise expense, you're covered.
Exactly.
Where's the best place to keep that emergency fund?
They suggest a few options like a checking or savings account or a money market fund.
What's a money market fund? I'm not familiar with that one.
It's basically like a mutual fund that invests in low-risk stuff, short-term debt securities. They tend to offer a slightly higher interest rate than a regular savings account,
Okay.
but they're still considered very safe and easy to access.
So your money's working a little harder, but you can still get to it quickly if you need it.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Emergency fund check.
Yeah.
What about retirement? Everyone says to start saving ASAP.
They're right. The sooner the better. How to save money for your big financial goals talks about 401ks and IRAs.
I've heard of those, but honestly, I don't really know the difference.
No worries, it can be confusing.
Yeah.
A 401k is basically a retirement plan offered by your employer. The cool thing is, a lot of companies will actually match some of your contributions.
There's like free money.
Exactly. Now, an IRA, that's an individual retirement account you set up on your own.
Mhm.
There are different types with different tax advantages, so it's worth looking into which one's best for you.
So lots to consider. How to save money for your big financial goals. Sounds like a great starting point.
Definitely.
There's one more big goal we haven't talked about, college savings. What if you've got a kid heading to college someday?
How to save money for your big financial goals talks about 529 plans.
Okay,
They're savings plans specifically for education expenses.
so it's not just for tuition.
Nope, it can cover room and board books, computers, all that stuff.
Wow.
And there's some tax benefits too. Withdrawals for qualified education expenses aren't taxed, which can really add up.
That's awesome. And they even mentioned using 529 plans to pay off student loans.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
It is. So it pays to stay informed about your options, right?
Absolutely. There are always new strategies and possibilities out there.
I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering, how can we afford to save for all this stuff?
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
We're not all made of money.
Right. But how to save money for your big financial goals has some good advice beyond just spend less.
Okay.
A big one is analyzing those major expenses like housing insurance and transportation.
So shopping around for better deals,
Yeah.
refinancing maybe.
Exactly, finding more affordable ways to get around.
It's not always fun, but it can make a big difference.
Right. And don't forget about cashback apps and rewards credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
If you're smart about it, you can actually earn money back on your spending.
It's like getting paid to shop.
Exactly. But of course, you got to use credit cards responsibly.
Right. Pay those balances in full every month.
Yes. Avoid those interest charges.
Okay, so use those tools wisely.
Right. And how to save money for your big financial goals reminds us to allow ourselves some treats.
I was going to say,
It's all about balance. You don't want to feel deprived.
deprivation just leads to burnout and giving up.
Exactly. And that's a big challenge with budgeting, that feeling of restriction.
Yeah.
People think it's all about saying no to everything.
I've definitely fallen into that trap.
That doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, good to know. Sticking to a budget can be tough, especially with all the temptations out there.
Oh, for sure.
I remember this one time I was at the bookstore.
Did you buy another stack of books you swore you'd get from the library?
Maybe?
Hmm.
How do we actually stay on track once we've made our budget?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And these sources have some great tips, budgets, everything you need to know really stresses tracking your expenses.
Hmm.
Whether you use an app, a spreadsheet, or just a notebook, consistently logging your spending is key.
So it's all about awareness,
Yeah, seeing where your money actually goes can be eye-opening.
for sure.
And budgets, everything you need to know, suggests using cash for those tempting purchases.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's harder to part with those physical bills than it is to swipe a card.
It's like psychological warfare against impulse spending.
Exactly. And Shay's video mentions finding an accountability partner,
Oh, yeah.
someone to check in with, share your progress, celebrate those wins.
It's like having a cheerleader for your financial journey.
Exactly. And both budgets, everything you need to know, and how to budget money. The 5-Step Guide NerdWallet emphasized that your budget needs to be revisited and adjusted.
Regularly.
Yeah, life changes, and your budget should change too.
Makes sense. New jobs, new expenses, new goals.
Exactly. All these things can impact your financial plan. Speaking of those big goals, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. It's easy to get so caught up in the day-to-day budgeting that those big goals feel really far off.
Totally.
Sometimes it feels like you're just treading water trying to keep up with bills.
Yeah. How do we stay motivated and focused on those long-term dreams?
That's a really common feeling, and it's where a lot of people get discouraged. But what if I told you that focusing on those long-term goals, like saving for retirement, could actually make you more financially secure in the short term?
Wait, really? That sounds kind of counterintuitive. It does seem a little backwards.
It might, but think of it like this. When you prioritize saving for the future, you're building a safety net for yourself.
Hmm.
That sense of security can really reduce your stress and give you more peace of mind right now, even if it means spending a little less in the present.
So it's about taking control and creating stability.
Exactly. It all comes back to that feeling of empowerment we talked about before.
Right.
When you've got a plan and you're working towards your goals, you feel more prepared to deal with whatever financial challenges come up.
It's like having that emergency fund.
Exactly.
You might not need it today, but knowing it's there gives you that peace of mind.
Exactly. So let's take it a step further. Imagine you've been saving for retirement and suddenly, bam, unexpected expense pops up.
Oh, no. Like a car repair.
It could be anything, a medical bill, a home repair, you name it.
Right.
If you haven't been saving, you might panic and reach for those credit cards, which could put you in even more debt.
I'm getting stressed just thinking about it.
But if you have a healthy retirement account, you might have more options.
Okay.
Depending on the type of account, you might be able to access those funds to cover that emergency.
So your long-term savings could actually protect you from those short-term financial hits.
Exactly. It's about creating a plan that supports you at all stages of life.
I like that.
Hmm.
And that brings us back to something from how to save money for your big financial goals, the power of compounding.
Yes. Compounding is like a snowball effect.
The snowball effect.
Your money earns interest on the interest it's already earned. The earlier you start, even with small amounts, the more time that snowball has to grow.
So it's not just how much you save, but when you start saving.
Exactly. Even small contributions to a retirement account in your 20s or 30s can have a huge impact later on.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective. So even if I can't save a ton right now, just starting somewhere is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. The key is to make saving a habit no matter how small the amount. Consistency is key.
I like that. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the benefits of budgeting, different methods to choose from, practical tips for actually sticking to it, and even how those long-term goals can actually improve your finances right now.
It all ties together.
Is there anything else we need to touch on before we wrap up?
I think we've hit the main points, but this is just the beginning.
Right.
It's a lifelong journey of learning and adapting.
So this deep dive is all about giving you the knowledge and tools to take control.
Exactly.
And there are so many resources available to help you.
For sure.
Don't be afraid to reach out for guidance. There are books, articles, websites, even financial advisors who can help.
It's not about going it alone.
Okay, so before we sign off, what's the one key message you want our listener to take away from all of this?
I'd say knowledge is power. The more you understand about your finances, the more confident and in control you'll feel.
That's so true. And remember, a budget isn't about deprivation. It's about freedom.
Yes.
It's about creating a plan that supports your dreams and goals, big and small.
Well said. And every step you take toward greater financial awareness is a win. It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
I love that. So to wrap things up, what resonated with you the most today? Which budgeting method are you interested in trying? What's one small step you can take today to start taking control?
Great questions to think about as you start your budgeting journey.
Until next time, happy budgeting. You got this.